Okay, so today we're looking at square roots and cube roots. So, squaring a number is raising that number to a power of 2. So, when a negative value is squared, be careful to note whether or not the negative sign is inside parentheses. Observe the differences below. So, we have negative 2 inside parentheses to the second power. So, that is basically saying negative 2 times negative 2, and that's going to give you positive 4. Now we have negative 2 squared. Now that is basically saying negative 2 times 2, and that gives you a negative 4. Okay? So negative 3 to the second power, since it's in parentheses, is going to be 9. Negative 3 to the second power, because it's not in parentheses, is going to be negative 9. Negative 4 to the second power, because it's in parentheses, is going to be a positive 16. And negative 4 to the second power, because it's not in parentheses, is going to be a negative 16. That is something that you need to take note of. So if it's inside parentheses, it will be positive. If it is not inside parentheses, it will be negative. So this is squaring a number. So square and square roots. So squaring a number is the same. Squaring a number is the inverse of taking the square root. Okay, which means the opposite. So taking the square root of a number technically results in two solutions. For example, the square root of 16 is 4, or negative 4, because 4 squared is 16, and negative 4 squared is also 16. So we can write this solution as the square root of 16 is positive negative 4. The positive square root is known as the principal square or root. Okay. So when we're looking at cube and cube roots, this is cubing a number or raising a number to a power of 3 is the inverse of taking the cube root. For example, the cube root of 8 is equal to 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So, can a cube root ever have a negative solution? Explain why or why not. Well, the answer is no, because a negative number multiplied by itself 3 times will always have a negative outcome. Okay, so complete the tables below as a reference for the first 10 perfect squares and cubes. So this is something that you should be able to do on your own. Do not use a calculator. If you need to, you can use the multiplication sheet in your notebook. Okay, so this is the answer for squared. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36, 7 squared is 49, 8 squared is 64, 9 squared is 81, and 10 squared is 100. Go ahead and do the cubes, which is basically saying 1 times 1 times 1, which we know is 1. Okay, so go ahead and do the rest of those. Okay, so 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27, 4 cubed is 64, 5 cubed is 125, 6 cubed, which is 6 times 6 times 6, is 216, 7 cubed is 343, 8 cubed, which is 8 times 8 times 8, is 512, 9 cubed is 729, and 10 cubed is 1,000. Okay, so evaluate the following squares and square roots. So we have negative 7, which is in parentheses, squared. So that means negative 7 times negative 7, which gives you 49. So now we have 2/3 squared. So we are going to say 2 times, so we're going to square 2, and then we're going to square the 3, which is going to give us 4. 3 times 3 is 9, so we're going to end up with 4/9. Number 3, so now we have negative 2 squared. And we said before that if it's not in parentheses, you're basically saying negative 9 times 9, and that gives you negative 81. Okay, so now we're going to do square roots. So we need to know what the square root of negative 10 is, which is basically what is the number multiplied to itself to get negative 100. And that would be negative 10. Okay, so it would be negative 10 times 10 is the square root of negative 100. So now we have the square root of 0.81. So this is really no different than 81, because what number can you multiply to itself to get 0.81? And that would be 0.9. Because 0.9 times 0.9 is 0.81. And now we need to know what the square root of 9/16 is. So what we're going to do is we're going to do these individually, and we're going to say the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 16 is 4, so it gives us 3/4. Okay, so let's look at 7. It says evaluate the following cube and cube roots. So negative 5 cubed. So this is going to be negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. And that's going to give you negative 125. And that was a typo on my end. So negative, these are all negatives. It gives you equals negative 125. So number 8 says 1/4 cubed. So we're going to cube 1, and then we're going to cube 4. So if you 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, and then 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So our answer is 1/64. Number 9, negative 10 cubed. So we're going to say negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10. And that's going to give us 1,000. Number 10, so we have 3, I'm sorry, not 3. We have the cube root of 216. So we need to know what number you multiply to itself 3 times to get 216. Okay, and that would be 6. Number 11, you're going to say negative cube root of 512. So what number would you multiply to itself to get 512? Be negative 8. And then number 12, this is a fraction, so we're going to say the cube root of 1/27. So what is the cube root of 1? It's 1. And the cube root of 27 just happens to be 3. So we get 1/3. And number 13, it says a group of 225 students needs to be arranged in a square formation for a halftime performance show. How many students should be lined up in each row? So we have a square. So that's giving you a hint. So you're going to take 225 students and you're going to put them in a square formation. So we want to know what the square root of 225 is. So what number can you multiply to itself twice to get 225? That's going to give you 15. Okay. So we're not going to look at number 14 because we haven't talked about volume right yet. And so what I need you to do is to go through your homework 1 through 10. And if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask.